This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty, its incredible detail. Tuning into it, they want to shatter your mind. Talking about Justin Bieber.
Makes the catch. Ball game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Where just like that, when someone comes up and says something like, I am a god, everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was. A god.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
All right. So, adjusting my chair here. We're here. Happy almost Friday. Life is strange. Life is strange. You know, life is like a roller coaster. You got to ride the ups and the downs. It's very true. But I'm afraid of roller coasters, so, you know, that analogy doesn't really work for me, personally. You know, today we have a emergency broadcast coming to you live from MK Ultra Studios in Asheville, North Carolina. No, to talk about the wanted to talk about the Mar-a-Lago raid. Because that's, you know, it's a big deal. It's, you know, the first president who has had a private residence raided. It's a pretty big deal. You know, they're searching for whatever they can find. Don't know if they'll come up with anything. I don't think they will. Blah, blah, blah. This ain't that. This ain't no political rant. This is just objectively what I find out when I look at the news articles, right? So, first thing I'll say is this, man. They keep trying to do anything to get this guy from running in office. They've been trying ever since he announced his run in 2015. Ever since then, there's been multiple New York investigations against him and his businesses and Trump Towers and 2 impeachments, both of them failed. Turns out the other side is colluding with Russia. You know, it's like they just don't want this guy in office because they know that he is, you know, anti-establishment. They know that he stands alone and he calls out the fake news media for what it truly is, okay? And that is to create division and hatred amongst us in the country. And it's just, it's bullshit, man. They're trying to really turn us against each other. But, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think most of us have the same goal, same common goals here. We just want to live a prosperous life and not be told what to do, man. Hopefully find some something we'd like to do and some love on the way, you know? But, it's pretty nuts. I don't think personally that they will come up with anything, but also, you know, what do I know? I don't know much. What I do know is this. The FBI is a 3-letter agency, okay? And 3-letter agencies suck. I don't like anything less than 3-letter agencies right now. It's like, because I got the IRS coming after me. I owe the IRS some money. That's a 3-letter agency. The FBI is a 3-letter agency, and apparently the FBI now works for the deep state. not the people, not we the people. So, you have the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, I respect the DHS. Homeland Security. The home front. I want to protect the home front. I don't want to give all my tax dollars to people in other countries when you got people in cities like the one I'm in literally living on the streets. So, I mean, come on, man. Can't we clean up our country a little bit first? But anyways, I won't go on that rant right now. Stay tuned. You've also got the, Department of Defense. That's literally the Department of War is what they used to be called. So you know what they're about. You got the NSA. Shout out Edward Snowden. The NSA, they're spying on you. That little iPhone you got with that camera there, they're watching you. So they can see what you're doing on your OnlyFans, but they're not paying that subscription. You have the CIA. That's probably the most interesting one in my opinion, just because we really don't know what the CIA does. I mean, we're told about what they do, but dude, talking deep state, cabal, all that globalist stuff, man, I think the CIA is in on some shit or some hoit. I think that the CIA is, I don't know if they're in charge of everything. I don't know if there's a family like the Rothschilds or the deep state or the you call it whatever you want. Call it the Illuminati, right? It's like the first word that I found out about when I looked into all this when I was 15. But, so you got the CIA, who spearheaded the MK Ultra experiments back in the 50s and apparently brought it to a halt. But again, I don't believe anything I'm told. So I think that, and I'm not going to go too down the rabbit hole with this, but let's just say I don't think the MK Ultra experiments completely stopped. I think they just reformed them and reworked them and have a different name for them now that they're not going to tell us about. I think it's the Democratic Party. No. Look, I know kids died in Sandy Hook and Uvalde and everywhere else in America because there's a mass shooting every day here. But, and yes, I believe that some of them are real. And yes, I do believe that kids are actually dying. It's fucked up. But I don't buy this whole thing that this kid, Adam Lanza, was just messed up and he went to go shoot up a school. I don't buy that narrative. I think that he did pull the trigger probably, but I think he was he was experimented with, just like Charles Manson was back in the 60s, right? The CIA. And this is actually real documents. MK Ultra is not a conspiracy. This actually happened. You can look it up. It's on your local Wikipedia. I mean, so yeah, I just think that the Lanza kid was tainted with or drugged, for lack of better term, experimented with. So yeah, that's kind of why the spin-off of this podcast name's MK Ultra. So look into the MK Ultra experiments. Very interesting. You've got the Oklahoma City bombing, the Unabomber, a lot of different things like that people argue are part of those types of experiments as well. Are there crazy people? Fuck yes, there are crazy people. The Buffalo shooter, the Charleston shooter. I mean, I'm not going to go and sit here and say all these are psyops. I think that some of these are definitely legit, but I just don't believe everything that I'm told. Point blank. Plowing along here. 3-letter agencies. Yeah, you've got some other ones, right? You've got the ones that kind of just suck. The FDA tells you what food and you can and can't eat, or whatever they even do. You've got I hate these ones. You got the Department of Transportation, which isn't as bad as the DMV. Man, fuck the DMV. My hatred for the DMV is probably second on my list next to the IRS. These 3-letter agencies. You got ICE. You got ICE. That's the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. I don't really know what they do other than enforce immigrations and customs. You've got the ATF, which there was that big thing that happened in. Let me see if I can do what Bill Burr does and research while he's podcasting. That's a pretty good skill, right? Texas, ATF. Yeah, Waco, the Waco siege. There was the Waco massacre. There was a Netflix series about that. That shit was crazy. Look into that if you're into stuff that I'm talking about. The Waco siege, law enforcement siege, a compound that belonged to a religious guy who claimed he was like the second coming of Christ or some crazy shit. It was in 1992. It was a cult that lived on a large, commune type thing, and basically they all just got murdered. Pretty messed up. You got ICE, got the World Health Organization, and then you also, I know you have the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. Both of those kind of suck in my opinion as well, just because of the whole COVID narrative. Vaccine, all that stuff. And that's there's probably you got the DEA. Okay, I think it'd be fun to be in the DEA, honestly, or the CIA for sure. It'd be sick. FBI, DEA, ATF. Those are all like the tactical law enforcement ones, and you got all the lame ones. Yeah. What other ones do we have? I don't know. Those are the big ones, right? There's probably a bunch of other ones that we don't know about, for sure. But anyways, the FBI raided Trump's compound. And I just think it's kind of a plot to indict him on some shit he didn't do. Maybe he did do some stuff, but like the two impeachments didn't work. They didn't get him out of office. They didn't get him... He won in 2016, and I think he actually won in 2020. So that's what I think. If you don't agree with what I think, I don't care. Start your own fucking podcast and talk about what you think. This guy that literally can't even put on his own jacket coming off of the chopper got 74 million votes or whatever. I know that number was wrong, but just... Come on, man. To run this country, you gotta be, strong like bull. You've gotta be number one. You gotta be the sharp, strong, skilled guy. And there's arguments that Trump's too old. I'm not saying, QAnon and God bless Trump. He's gonna save all of us and the kids under Central Park with the QAnon shit. I look into a lot of crazy shit. If you don't know about that, people who are into QAnon think that there's kids being trafficked under Central Park, and Donald Trump is here to rescue them. It's interesting to look into, but it's definitely bullshit. Just like the 5G's turning the frogs gay, and the Earth is flat, and all that stuff. But where I was getting at with this and this presidential talk was. I watched listened to this really awesome podcast. Matt and Shane Gillis and Matt, they have a fucking amazing podcast. And they actually brought on Louis C.K., who is my favorite comedian stand-up all time. Hands down. Don't care about the accusations. Guy's a comedic genius. Anyways, Louis is smart as hell. They did a 4-part series called The Presidents, okay? And I really want you to look into this if you're interested in history, because it is so much better than that crappy one that Giannis Pappas and whoever them wannabe stand-ups put out. This is like legit, dude. And they talked about they did every president from Washington to Biden, and they just Shane and Louis talked about they just said everything they knew about them, basically, from an objective point of view. Again, not critiquing either one's party or beliefs, but just what they did, how impactful their or their time in office was for the country. And the one that I just want to touch on is when they talked about Teddy Roosevelt in episode 2. Teddy Roosevelt has always been probably my favorite president, just because the little amount that I knew about him. But now, holy fuck, this guy is a god. Was a god. I mean, this guy was a fucking legend, dude. So let me just set the bar for you on how legendary Teddy Roosevelt was. Okay, and first of all, one of the cool things about him is the teddy bear was actually named after Teddy Roosevelt because he hunted bears and other big game in like Montana or some shit out there whenever he wasn't running the world. So just badass, first of all. Okay, so teddy bear comes from Teddy Roosevelt, but that's has nothing to do with his accomplishments. Just hear me out here and think about when he was in office, right? Let's see here. When was Teddy Roosevelt in office? He was in office from 1901 to 1909. Shit was different back then. That's over 100 years ago, okay? So talk about, you think we're divided now? Dude, blacks couldn't even drink the same water fountain as white people back then. Well, that was in the 60s. God, 1901, I don't want to even imagine how bad it was, right? So he's the first president to host a black person at the White House. Do you realize how major that was back then? And if you ever watched WWE growing up, Booker T, the wrestler, his name is based on Booker T. Washington, who is the gentleman that Teddy Roosevelt had at the White House. Okay, and he was scolded and reprimanded and yelled at and judged for that so much, but he welcomed him into the White House like he was his own, you know. So that's one thing. That's major right there. Okay, but also this guy was giving a speech, Teddy was, and he got shot mid-speech. What did he do, you ask? He fucking kept going. He continued his speech. He said it's going to take a lot more to kill a bull moose, and continued his speech. What a fucking legend, dude. Okay? Teddy Roosevelt out here. He used to be in charge of the New York NYPD. He was like the commissioner or whatever the name was back then, and he basically reformed it. And they're not sure if he created the police academy as a whole of the country, or if he just created the police academy of NYPD. Either way, what he did for the NYPD was major, and the police world as a whole. He basically said, okay, all these cops here in New York are fat. They got the jobs because they were referred by other family members who are cops, and they just drink and sleep on the job, and they don't actually stop crime. So he said, you should have a police academy, and you should be qualified to pass the test. So, or to become a cop, you have to pass the test. And so that's what he did. He basically created the police academy. There's a lot of work to be done on law enforcement in this country. I am well aware, okay? But anyways, plowing along here, Teddy Roosevelt, when he was president, invited Jack Johnson, not the singer of Banana Pancakes, but Jack Johnson, the heavyweight champion of the world, to the White House and said, listen, if I'm going to be the president, if I'm going to run this country, I'm going to fight you because you're the heavyweight champion of the world, and the president should have to take on the heavyweight champion of the world in a physical boxing match to claim his throne. Dude, could you imagine fucking Joe Biden going up to fucking Floyd Mayweather and saying, hey, let's fight? Like, oh my God. He would die. He'd be died immediately. He fought Jack Johnson, though, and Johnson blinded him in one eye, and he said, don't tell anyone about this. So, just legendary, man. So legendary. And, yes, Teddy Roosevelt was part of the Republican Party. But get this, liberals. He created the national parks. You're talking Yellowstone. You're talking Yosemite. All right? So next time you're climbing at, Yosemite, or you're hiking in Yellowstone, and you're thinking about how great the earth is and love, just know who created that national park for you. That's all. All right? So they're not all out to get you guys. I mean, national parks are beautiful. And the fact that this guy created the national park system, I mean, that's in itself amazing. Okay. He's also the first president to fly in an airplane. That's just baller. I mean, he said, I think what Louis said was when Teddy was in office, he said, listen, if I'm going to be the president, people should be able to see me. I need to be able to go to these little towns and these cities and meet people. The president, you should be able to see the president. So he got in airplanes and flew around, and this is 1900. So first president to go fly in an airplane. And I think Kennedy was the youngest president to be elected now, JFK. But before him, Teddy was the youngest president to be elected. So just a lot of, and there's so much more about this guy that is just insane. So I don't know. Objectively, he did a lot. Subjectively, he's my favorite president, hands down. Sorry, Teflon Don. But anyways, we were talking about that before because I got into a lot of rabbit hole stuff, and I was talking about conspiracy theories and MK Ultra and Sandy Hook and 9/11, all this stuff. And a friend of mine asked me a question on Discord, Raphael January, shout out. He said, is it better to not know the truth of a conspiracy and enjoy the ride the best you can? That's a really good question, Raphael, because I think I would like to know the truth of what exactly happened on 9/11, but if I did know the truth, it's like that saying, someone said this, if you knew just how rich the rich are, there would be riots in the streets, because the rich are so much richer than you know. Speaking of the rich, my company just laid off close to 1,000 people yesterday. I work for a company with about 4,000 people, I think, because we laid off 20% of our staff, and we're a publicly traded company, GOCO, on the market, and CEO pulled in over $30 million in 2020. All right, so just in case you thought you were making money, this guy's making 30 big ones, not even having to be on the phones with these Medicare people. But no, that's just too much money for anybody, in my opinion, except for me, because if I had 30 million, I'm just kidding. But so is it better to know the truth of a conspiracy and enjoy the ride the best you can? I don't know, because if I knew the truth, what happened on 9/11, would I turn into a nihilist, masochist, and revolt? I mean, I'm kind of already that, but I think I would like to know personally, just because. But at the same time, it's like, is it better to just not know and just live your life? I think that's the healthier option. The more peaceful for yourself and your mental well-being is to not know everything. But man, I would like to know the big secrets. So I don't know, man. That's something to think on. I don't really have much else to say about that. But if I knew what exactly happened on 9/11, how would I feel? Pretty bad, honestly. I'd probably become a martyr and probably move to like some fishing village in Finland. Doesn't sound too bad, because you don't need much in this world, Society and media and technology likes to tell you need the brand new iPhone and the new AirPods, but do you? Do you, though? Because I was actually just talking with a guy who came to work on my air conditioner today, and he was telling me that he had a coworker that figured out life, man. He worked at Lowe's, lived in the middle of nowhere, like literally in the woods, with a wife and kids and a dog, and he was the happiest person that he ever come across. So, I think that speaks volumes. I think, and I'm gonna mention another Mac Miller quote on that, because I know he said in one of his songs, it's funny, we can make a lot of money, buy a lot of things just to feel a lot of ugly. Okay, so I think that there's some truth to that. It's funny because I'm in a good career, and I've been able to buy like a hoodie when I want, and a watch when I want, and like shoes when I want, and that it doesn't it kind of masks the real thing. Physically it masks your body because you're putting on an item, an article of clothing, but it also masks you from being your true self, your true nature. I'll put on like a hoodie or whatever, and I'll be like, am I a fraud? Like, I'll feel kind of gross in it, if that makes sense. Or I'll put on a really nice pair of shoes and look down at my feet and go, dude, you just got clown shoes on, bro. Like, what are you doing? But I don't know. It's like that saying, I'd rather cry in a Ferrari than a Saturn, because that's definitely true. So I think money has its uses. It definitely makes life easier to a certain degree, but it doesn't cure your happiness, because look at some of the richest people are the most miserable. I mean, what's that chick who makes those handbags? Kate Spade, right? One of the richest fashion designers of our time, hung herself in her upper East Side penthouse, right? So, and then you got like Avicii and Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, 3 big time musical artists that I love, all suicide. No, they were murdered. They were all murdered. All 3 of them were they? Because a lot of people do think they were murdered, and that's a conspiracy for sure. We don't have the proven facts, just like we don't know if Kurt Cobain actually was murdered. I think that Kurt killed himself because he was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He had mental health issues. Okay, so I can understand that, but people think that Avicii and all these other guys, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park and Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and Audioslave, all were murdered because look into this. They were all working on a documentary about child trafficking, and they didn't want to get blown up by the deep state, so they had them murdered by the same people that killed Epstein. Shout out Hillary. She's just a gangster. So I think that's kind of bullshit. But again, if I knew the truth about that, if I had the factual evidence on, yes, Avicii was murdered by like Hillary Clinton's goons, that'd be pretty fucked up. I don't know. But yeah, truth, conspiracies, enjoying the ride. You know what really helps me enjoy the ride, guys? And I'm going to be honest here, and this isn't a bit, God. Yeah, man. Good old Lord. I've looked into and talked to and researched a lot of different gods in my journey. I got into the Buddha a long time ago. And then I got into Hinduism, Krishna and Rama and Shiva. And now it's kind of in the Christ realm, if you will. I started going to church, love where I go, some really solid people. I think everything that's happened in the last few years with COVID and all the division and the riots and the elections in our country has created so much poison in the atmosphere and the energy, and you can feel it. And I'm not about that. So I wanted to go to church, and I wanted to find God. I think that, and this is just my opinion, they're trying to bring God out of everything, man, with all these drag shows with the kids and teaching 4-year-olds about sex. I think it's rather disgusting. I think that this modernism is a cancer, and I think that it's just horrible the way that everything's going here. I think we need to embrace traditionalism and a family. And what's wrong with wanting to have a wife and kids? What's wrong with wanting a white picket fence. And I don't know. I just feel like if you're a straight white heterosexual man now, you're looked at as a Nazi in a way. It's like you're not accepted, and maybe that's just where I live or just on the articles that I'm reading. I went to Starbucks today, and it was a chick. Her name tag said they them, which is fine. I understand that. I'll call you they them because I'm not a bigot, but don't force it down my throat. Don't shove it down my throat and make all of the colors on all the icons that I'm browsing on rainbows and, just force it down my throat, shove it down my throat and post it everywhere on Google and, anti-whiteness and, straight men are monsters. It's like, it's just not, I don't like all that, but that's why this is why I'm going to church. This is why I'm seeking help and religion and love and grace. And God has definitely been working in my life these past few months. Everything is on the up and up. And yeah, man. So I'm definitely about that life now. And it's just for me, it's just a healthier way to live. It's a healthier way to live than with hate and judgment and fear. I can cast my fears on him, and it's like the Louis C.K. bit, man. He was saying how he doesn't believe in God, and that's fine, but he said I don't believe in God, but I hope there's not a God. And he said I pray on my hands and knees, please God don't be. And I think that's hilarious because when he gets to the afterlife, if God's real, he's gonna be like, fuck, you got the beard and everything. All right, yep, I'm going to hell. I'm going. All right, I'm going. But if it's real and heaven's real, then I'll be stoked, So it's just in my opinion, a better way to look at it. And I'm not a radical Christian. I've only been going to church for a few months now. Love the guys and gals that I've met there thus far. And I'm just going to keep doing that. Because what I was doing in my past life wasn't working for me, so today I'm doing things that do work for me. So that's it. Super stoked to go to jiu-jitsu tonight. We're actually having a little snack session after, me and some of the guys there. And then got the weekend. Probably going to hit the pool up. Just the same old stuff. Hang out with some friends. And, yeah. So that's all I got today, guys. Whoever, I say guys, but this is for me. That's all I got today, Kai. Thanks for letting me vocally diary my life to myself. And with that, thank you.